Welcome back. I'm Mr. White, and this is Lesson 1-4, Properties of Real Numbers. So the process solving any equation in one variable is to create a series of equivalent equations until the variable is isolated or has some coefficient, or has a coefficient of 1. And we usually solve these equations by applying these properties of real numbers. So we call these properties, these are relationships that are always true for the real numbers that we're looking at. So two algebraic expressions are equivalent expressions if they have the same value for all values of the variables or variable. Okay, so here's some properties that we can look at. Okay, if we let A, B, and C be any real numbers, then the properties of addition and multiplication are considered commutative. Okay, so for commutative of addition, when we change the order and it does not change the sum, or we change the order of the factors and it does not change the product, that's commutative. So example would be A plus B equals B plus A. Simply put, if we have 18 plus 54, we know that that's 72, and 54 plus 18 is 72, so we have 72 is equal to 72. For multiplication, commutative property of multiplication, we'll take A times B, and that should be equal to B times A. Example, if we have 12 times a half, half of 12 is 6. And if we go 1/2 of 12, that is also 6. So it works both ways. Some other properties of addition and multiplication, if we change the grouping, but it does not change that sum, or change the grouping and it does not change the product, we call this association, or associative property. So for addition, now we're going to use grouping symbols. So A plus B in parentheses plus C should be equal to A plus, and then in parentheses, B plus C. Example, 23 plus 9 plus 4 gives us 32. 32 plus 4 gives us 36. Or if we go 9 plus 4 is 13. 13 plus 23 is also 36. For multiplication, if we go A times B first times C, that should be the same as going B times C first times A. Example, 7 times 9, 63. 63 times 10 is 630. If we go 9 times 10 is 90. 90 times 7 is also 630. Some other properties. Again, with multiplication and addition, the sum of any real number and 0 is the original number. So if we're going to add something to get the original number, or we're going to multiply something to get to the original number. Some of you are already thinking in your head, yes, those are identities. So what do we have to add to, say, some number to get itself? Well, that's going to be 0. So A plus 0 equals A. Example, I know the example's ugly, but 5 3/4, 5.75 plus 0 is still 5.75. Okay, for multiplication, now we're going to have to multiply by 1 to get itself. So A times 1 still gives us A. The example would be 67 times 1 is still 67. Okay. A property of multiplication, so the product of A and 0 is always 0. This is called the zero product property, or zero property of multiplication. Okay. Meaning, if we basically multiply, take anything that we have, variable or number, times 0, you should get 0. So it doesn't matter if it's 18, 52, 30, or 2/5, you still get 0. The multiplication property of -1 says if we multiply by -1, it changes the sign, makes the opposite. So -1 times A gives us negative A. -1 times negative A gives us positive A. So -1 times 9 is -9. Okay. Let's see your turn now. We'll make it easy for you. Okay. Take the property name on the right and just draw a line to the example on the left. Give you about 30 seconds. Go. Alright, welcome back. Check your line. See, the one thing that's going to be a little confusing is this fourth one down. 1, 2, 3, 4. The inverse multiplication. Really, that's related to that identity except for we're going to say, okay, with multiplication, what two numbers do you multiply to get the identity of 1? Well, in that case, it was negative 2/3 and negative 3/2. Okay. The identity, or the inverse for addition, then would be, okay, what am I going to add to a number to get its identity, which was 0? So for instance, negative a plus a would give you that number. Okay. One more. Again, same thing. Take the property names and match them up with the corresponding example on the left. And welcome back. Again, check your lines. See how you did. And continue on over to problem number 3. Okay, writing equivalent expressions. So what we're going to do is we need to simplify each expression and then understand what properties are we applying to our certain steps. So for the first one, what we need to do is we need to know the expression. Then what we need to do is we need to take and look at groups of numbers that can be simplified, and then use our plan to use those properties to group or reorder the parts of the expression to make it a little easier for us. So for instance, the first one, we know that 5 times the quantity 3n, we can break that into really 5 times 3 times n. Well, notice what we're doing. We're changing the grouping. If you remember, changing the grouping was an association or associative property of multiplication. Okay. Now, by going 5 times 3, all we're doing is multiplication, or we're simplifying from there. Okay. So, makes it a little easier. Okay. For b, we have 4 plus 7b in parentheses plus 8. Well, notice the first, what we did is, we really still have 4 plus 7b, but it rearranged inside the parentheses. Well, we didn't change the grouping because you're still adding the same numbers. So that is the, yes, commutative property of addition. Okay. Now we're taking the 7b, the 4, and the 8, and if you look at this next step right here, you still have 7b, 4, and 8 in the same order. All we've done now is change parentheses. So we've changed the grouping. That becomes now your association or associative property of addition. And then 4 plus 8 is 12, so all we're doing is simplifying here to make the 12, and then our answer is 7b plus 12. Letter C, we're taking 6xy over y, or divided by y, and we're trying to simplify as best we can. Well, notice what we did on the right. First thing is we took the 6x and then broke out the times y, and then there's really a 1 in front of here, so we just made it 1 times y. Okay, what that is we're rewriting the denominator using the identity property of multiplication. Identity with that 1 times something. Okay. Now we're going to, using properties of multiplication, especially with fractions, multiplying numerators, multiplying denominators, we're going to just rewrite and split this division sign so that we get a y over y and then a 6x over 1. Okay, that's just the multiplying fractions rule. A over b times c over d is equal to ac over bd. Okay. Notice what's happening. What's y divided by y? 4 divided by 4 is 1, so y divided by y is also 1. So now we've done x divided by 1 is really equal to x. Y divided by y is equal to 1. So, and then 6x times 1, multiplication property, or the identity property of multiplication. Congratulations! Again, do your best, forget the rest. Bye for now.